what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
On a guard! Order! Right! Face!
America! On the right!
Forward! Forward!
Good evening. I'm Joe Daniels, President of the National September 11th Memorial Museum. I want to thank everybody for being here on this special evening as we honor our rescue and recovery workers, including, of course, the first responders, the unions, the construction workers, relief workers, engineers, contractors, and all others who participated in the unprecedented effort that began immediately after the 9/11 attacks. This place where we stand today, at the foundation of two mighty towers, is sacred. And the sacredness comes not only from the innocent souls that were killed here on 9/11, but from the special period of blood, sweat, and sacrifice that has no true parallel in the history of the United States. But as profound and as admirable as this community's work and experiences at Ground Zero were, in taking those first early steps towards our nation's healing, it isn't even the most important thing that this country should be thankful to you for. We, myself, the museum, everyone that works here, this city, and the entire country are most thankful from the bottom of our hearts that because of what you did during those 9 months of recovery is perhaps creating one of the purest examples over our 240-year history of what makes this country great and able to reach its highest ideals. The story of the rescue and recovery at Ground Zero, the story of your courage and sacrifice will inspire young Americans not yet born for decades to come through tales of your dedication and achievements that will be passed down through the generations. It is an example truly for the ages. It is so necessary that we preserve this history and the story of the individuals who came to work at this site. And there are many places throughout this museum that tell the story. Some include the Scroll of Honor, which is behind me and in front of me, in Foundation Hall, which includes a list of names, a growing list of names of right now 12,000 men and women who devoted weeks and months ensuring we could rebuild. For anyone who participated in the recovery and has not yet added their name, please see folks from my team, which are back at tables behind me, because this list, capturing this moment in our history, and the tens and tens of thousands of people who helped here is so important to us. The oral histories and the images that you can hear and see throughout the historical exhibit that transport us back to those days after 9/11, the days of dust, the days of despair, and then the days of hope. We've also just opened a prominent new exhibit in our South Tower Gallery featuring photographs from those first 10 weeks of the rescue and recovery efforts captured by Andrea Boer, who many of you know from your time working here. We are actively looking to identify the men and women in those photos. So if you recognize yourself, or you recognize a loved one or a friend, please let one of the staff know who will be stationed in that exhibit. It's an incredibly powerful set of photos, and I hope it's an example of the words, of matching the words that I say, which is that we have had 6 million people almost come to this museum in the first 2 years that it's been open. And I don't think anyone leaves this museum without an understanding, a little bit of an understanding of the sacrifices and the incredible period in our country's history when people came down to a site that literally at times was like hell. All of these pieces work together to tell the story, but we need your continued help and the help of your loved ones. It is so important to acknowledge that this history is made up, like the museum itself, is made up of individuals. Individuals who gave of themselves for a greater good. Individuals who continue to give of themselves for a greater good. And some of those individuals, too many of those individuals, have passed away because of their dedication to the recovery and to healing. It is imperative that they not be forgotten. There are some people who many of you recognize on the stage this evening who represent such a key part of the history of what happened not only during the days of the recovery, but the important work that's gone on since then. And I just wanted to say that there's so many individuals we would love to recognize. The folks on stage tonight are doing a wonderful thing for history, which is donating very special artifacts to this museum that we will have on display by this 15th anniversary of 9/11 just a couple months from now. But other sectors of this effort to help, whether they're represented by the Building Trades Council and Gary LaBarbera, the story of mass at Ground Zero represented through the World Trade Center Cross and Father Jordan. I saw Commissioner Pisano, who is such a deep, not only supporter of the project, but him and the men, most importantly, that he represents, played such a tremendous historic role that it's such an honor for them to be here tonight. The folks, though, that on stage, it's really an honor to talk about them for a second. I want to start first with John Field. As the founder and president of the Feel Good Foundation and a staunch advocate for this community, John Field's vigorous lobbying of elected officials in support of the passage of the James Zadroga 9/11 Health and Compensation Act and its recent reauthorization ensured their passage, basically forced our country, which should not have needed to be forced, to do the right thing, to make sure that those who need assistance continue to get it. Hours after the passage of the Zadroga Reauthorization Act, John let us know that he was officially retiring his red jacket and wanted to entrust it to us so that generations to come could learn about the plight of those who are ailing because of their sacrifices here. John wore this jacket as he led volunteers from the Feel Good Foundation on over 200 trips from New York to DC to lobby officials, and the jacket is adorned with numerous patches that stand as markers of this journey. I also want to say I was lucky enough to be able to join John in September of this past year at something which is a truly special project. His 9/11 Responders Remembered Memorial Park. It is a memorial in Long Island that acknowledges those who have given everything in sacrifice during the recovery. And unfortunately, and I know this past Saturday, many new names were added to that wall. But for those that haven't gone out there, I'm sure check John's Facebook page and his foundation. It is something that everyone obviously comes to the memorial and museum. But this is an aspect of remembering those who died because of their work in healing that John remembers in that beautiful, beautiful park. Ray Pfeiffer was an FDNY firefighter for nearly 30 years. Away from the city at the time of the attacks on 9/11, Ray arrived back in town around noon on that day and reported to Ground Zero. He spent most of the next 9 months working at the site. In 2009, a story that has become all too familiar to this entire community. Ray was working at his firehouse when he felt a pain in his leg. He went to the hospital where doctors found a tumor the size of a golf ball in his hip. And he was ultimately diagnosed with stage 4 renal cancer. As a result, he has endured the removal of a kidney, hip replacement surgery to replace part of his femur, a heart attack induced by chemo, and the spread of the cancer into his bones. Despite his waning health, Ray teamed up with John Stewart, who's a board member of ours, and others to lobby for the passage of this historic Health and Compensation Act as a DROGA Act. Ray received the key to the City of New York in January of 2016 in recognition of these advocacy efforts, and immediately pledged to donate this key to the museum's collection so that we might be able to tell this important story in a now expanded way. We are also joined tonight by Paula Cohen and her children, Nicholas and Diana. They are the family of the late Ronald Cohen, who is a deputy commissioner and senior advisor in the office of the mayor, and leader of various rescue and recovery efforts at both Ground Zero and Fresh Kills. Ronnie died of brain cancer at 47 years old in November of 2014. My boss, Mayor Michael Bloomberg, described Ronnie as someone we called on to move mountains. And he could do it because he knew how every aspect of government worked. He could marshal forces from every level. And I always knew we were in good hands when Ronnie was on top of an issue. In his honor, Ronnie's son, Nicholas, who I had the pleasure of meeting a few weeks ago, advocated for the creation of a challenge coin in his father's memory, which is now being donated by the family as a powerful reminder of the many who have served and then succumbed to 9/11 related illnesses. It's through not only keeping these stories in our hearts, because that's the part none of us will ever forget to do, but it is through the sharing of artifacts, the sharing of stories like the ones that are being donated tonight with visitors from around the world that will ensure that this story is never forgotten. I'd like to now ask for a moment of silence to remember the sacrifices of all those who worked at this site, those who've gotten sick because of their time here, and the too many who have already died due to their illnesses. The last thing I just wanted to say is that as someone who's been involved in this project for the last 11 years, I think I've shared with some folks before, I'm not sure if I spoke about it last year, but I have been, my whole 9/11 experience was, I happened to be here on the day of 9/11. I was working a corporate job. I happened to get out of the E train at the World Trade Center between the first and second planes hitting. I remember seeing the hole in the North Tower and seeing people jump from the building. I remember the fireball that exploded out of the South Tower when United 175 hit the South Tower. I remember running from the site, a group of women stopping me saying, did you hear the Pentagon's been attacked? And then as many of us experienced, a whole series of very deeply surreal and terrifying moments. On a very personal level, you know, I joined when I was about 32 years old. This organization became president a year after. And getting to know the members of the rescue and recovery community has truly been one of the, I don't know if the right word is just blessing or perk of the job. It's not often that a community as tight-knit as the rescue and recovery workers, whether they're first responders or union members across the board, but to be welcomed with friendship into that community has always meant a lot to me. And when we post this special day, I think you'll see over the years that our commitment to this community is going to continue to grow. And in part, that's because beyond the stories of sacrifice that will stand the test of time, the people who executed those stories are really, really good people. And it's very special to me to have you all here. I'd now like to invite you all to join me in tying a blue ribbon next to the last column in memory of all those who gave everything of themselves.
There it is.